Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name's Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all doing well on this lovely almost Friday. That's what Thursdays are called, almost Friday. If you are tuning in live here on Behance, let me know. Throw your name in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And if this is the first time using Adobe XD, I'd love to know that as well. We've got Paul Tranny, who just wrapped up the previous stream. Great stuff over there. Sam and Katrina and Julia and Nishant. If I mispronounce anyone's name, I do apologize. Cornell and Annie and Uzman and Jack. Welcome, everyone. Great to see all of you here on this, Jack, almost Friday. We've got Howard from South Africa. I love meeting Howards. You know, funny story, I actually met another Howard Pinsky once. I was working at Apple, and a guy came in to buy a product. He handed me his ID to prove that he is who he is, and it said Howard Pinsky on the ID, and it was one of the strangest experiences of my life. I don't know why I'm telling you all of this, but it's very weird. Anyways, here we go. XD Daily Creative Challenge day number 3 is upon us. So I'm going to hop over to my screen. Hey, Kate, welcome. Here's the Daily Creative Challenge landing page. Behance.net/challenge/XD. We also do challenges for Photoshop and Premiere and also Illustrator. Crazy, right? Yeah, Jack. Howard Pinsky from a mirror. You know, I questioned everything that day. Maybe he was me from the future buying an iPod. I don't know why he would do that, but, you know, he's checking up on me, making sure I'm okay. That's the only logical explanation. All right, so if you're brand new to this whole shindig, here's how things work. There's a big blue button at the top. I'm not logged in right now, but if you were logged in, it would ask you to register. Go ahead and press that button so you are notified when new challenges are released. And every single day, Monday to Friday, except the first Monday, so 9 challenges in total, you're going to receive one of those challenges. You can also join us in our Discord community chat. If I hop over there, we have 45,000 designers in Discord. That's a lot of people, and all of you are amazing. I don't think I've had to kick anybody out of our Discord, maybe one, but for the most part, 99.999% of you are great people. And you can get all the whole lowdown about the challenge, you can ask questions, but more importantly, you can share your work that you're doing in the current challenge channel, right here, right? And there's a lot of people just sharing. I don't even know what is happening here. Okay, well, that's a thing. We might have to get rid of that one. But a lot of people are sharing some amazing stuff. This challenge, the previous challenge, it's just good time. We got some great mentors, Alexis, Melody, Peter, Tim, Marissa, I think Joss was in there. A lot of cool people sharing work, giving feedback. So hop in there and have a good time. It is an optional step, so if you're not used to Discord or you just don't want to deal with it, totally fine. You can also share your work on Behance, right here on Behance, using the keyword XD Daily Challenge, and we have a brand new galleries page, behance.net/galleries/challenge, I believe, /challenges with an S, and you can see all the work from XD to Photoshop to Illustrator, and your work may appear here at some point, which is great. So definitely submit your work on Behance as well. All right, so we started off the week with a sign-in experience using components. Then we explored a navigation bar yesterday using component states. That was a lot of fun. And today we're going to be designing out the social feed of this application using repeat grids, anchor links, and maybe even audio playback. I know someone in the chat yesterday asked if we can add audio effects, and the answer is oh yeah. So maybe we'll get to that. Here we go. Let's hop over to Adobe XD. Here is the template, and I should note that if you are just catching up and you didn't participate in day 1 and day 2, I would encourage you to do so. You can rewatch the videos and follow along, but if you just want to start from day number 3, you can always grab the starter file right here, and it does include the previous day's work, which is really cool. All right, here we go. Here is what we've been doing so far. We have our sign-in experience on this screen over here. Again, we used components. Let me hop back into design mode. We used components to create many of these elements so that if we did need to make changes on a global level, we can very easily do that, right? Very cool stuff. We also did the same for the button at the bottom. And then yesterday we moved on to this navigation bar. We wired it up using component states, and we can tap and switch between all these lovely icons down at the bottom, cool animations. Someone did ask in Discord how we would also navigate to other screens. And I'm going to talk more about that probably tomorrow. But the short answer is you can't have 2 tap triggers on a single interaction, at least at the moment, maybe in the future. So you would have to unwire the state-to-state interactions and just move that handle over to the other artboard. It is very simple, and I'll show you that probably tomorrow. All right. So here we go. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be designing out the social feed for this application. Now there's a few things we might want on this social feed. Number one, we might want some sort of a header at the top. Maybe it'll display a logo or profile picture, but more importantly, when we get to actually wiring this up with anchor links, it's going to help us in that process. So I'm going to grab the rectangle, as I always do, and draw one out towards the top. Now, I always point this out because I think it's very important. Let me just change the color so we can see what we're working with. If you're designing for an iPhone, at least some of the modern iPhones, and even some Android devices, at the top of the device, you've got our lovely notch. Some phones have bigger notches, some phones have smaller notches, but it's there, right? So you have to pay attention to that. You don't want to make a header just like this, and you definitely don't want to put icons over here or over here, because you won't be able to interact with them. They might be covered up by the notch. So just take this shape and extend it downwards, right? Just so you have a nice amount of breathing room. The notch is somewhere, there's a guide out there, but it's somewhere about here, right? It's about 45 pixels from the top, something like that. So keep that in mind. Don't put stuff back there because your users will not like you. All right, so we've got this navigation bar. Let's actually just drop the color just for now. We'll probably stylize this at some point, but for now I'm just going to keep it as a placeholder, and I'm going to just drop it to about gray, something like that. Now inside of this header, you might want a few things. A logo, for example. So I'm going to hop over to our plugins, and I'm going to type out, let's say, fire, because fire is great, right? Sometimes. Not always great. And I'm going to pop it right about in the middle of this header. My smart guides are helping me out throughout this process. Beautiful. And of course, if you have a logo of your own, you can always grab that, drag it into XD. If you're designing in Illustrator, you can open up an Illustrator file directly, or you can copy and paste between Illustrator and Photoshop. So there's a lot of cool things you can do to get your information into XD. I'm also going to grab a circle, draw one out, make sure my guides are in place, and this is essentially going to be for a profile picture. We're going to get to adding elements into things like profile pictures tomorrow. Hint, hint, hint. But for now, we'll leave it at that. All right, so I'll keep those guides on. Now, for the actual feed down below, there's a few things that we need inside of it. We need one, a profile picture. We might need a name, some text, and a bunch of icons, right? So users can interact with those icons and do something. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangle, of course. Are you making Tinder? I'm not making Tinder, but you can absolutely make a Tinder style application in Adobe XD. I'm going to drag one out. I'm holding down my Shift key to constrain this to a perfect square. Can we turn off smart guides? Can you turn off smart guides? I don't think you can turn off smart guides. I think they're there, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, they are there. I'm going to round out the corners just a little bit, not too much. I don't want to go for a circle, but just something like this, right? And maybe to give this a little bit of style, because at least for today, until we get to actually adding some content into these squares, maybe we'll just, many social networks, they have a placeholder for people who don't have photos. So maybe we'll just grab a color, maybe we'll do a linear gradient, and to move away from the pink, maybe we'll do a nice blue at the top and a slightly darker blue at the bottom. You don't want to go too crazy. You definitely don't want to do something like this, because then that's too drastic. So maybe something around, I don't know, something like this. Again, very subtle, right? And on the inside, we might just want to use initials. So I see Jonathan is in the chat, so I'm just going to type out the letter J. Maybe I'll go for the Dunbar, oops, I spelled that wrong. Dunbar, for example, right? Drag this up, and I'll make that nice and bold. There we go. Just center that inside of this shape. Perfect. All right, so we've got that looking pretty good. Now over to the right, we need some additional information. I'm gonna grab my text tool one more time, and this might be, oh, you can't see it. I should change the color to a darker color. That's John Doe. But because this is gonna be a smaller element, right? We probably don't want to use our header text, which is Dunbar tall. So instead, I'm going to go back to Sophia Pro, just like that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to position it somewhere around, 16 pixels from the side, just following that 8-pixel grid a little bit. Beautiful. Now down here, we might want some paragraph text to, maybe this is a social post about Adobe XD or something like that. Now instead of point text, we might want to go for area text. And in that case, we're going to hop over here to our properties inspector, and we're going to press this button right here, which is going to convert our point text into area text, just like that. And we're going to drag this out, and we're going to drag it down a little bit, just like that. Now, we probably don't want to match the styling as the name, because this is sort of like a paragraph, right? So we're going to drop the weight to, let's say, regular, and we might also drop the size a little bit. And I would encourage you all, as you're designing something like this, is to press the play button at the top and really see how things are looking. It's looking a little bit small. It's really hard to tell when you're kind of very tight in there and designing. Things look great right here, right? But when you press play, yeah, things are a bit small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump this up, say about 16, and this one, let's say 12, what that looks like. It's not bad. I would probably still alter it a little bit, but for now, we will leave it. All right, so we've got that looking pretty good. Now in here, I might just want to type currently designing for the daily creative challenge in Adobe XD. Right? Something like that. Just so we have some real world placeholder text. Perfect. So we've got the name, we have the placeholder text, and now down below we might also want some icons. Maybe so users can comment, like, bookmark, and share. So again, we can go into our icon library, and if you have icons, you can always bring those in. I'm going to type out chat, for example, or I can also type out message. And Cornell is saying you can always use live preview on your iPhone. You can indeed, Cornell. So I'm going to grab this icon here. Just move this down. That's way too large, so I'm going to shrink it. And this is a border-based icon, so I can adjust the border very easily. Just like that. I might also want to drop the opacity just a little bit. Maybe I'll drop it a little bit more. Again, I want to open up my preview to see how things are looking. Maybe 1.5, 1.5, something like that. All right, it'll do for now. That'll do, pig. All right, I'm gonna pop that there. And we may also want, let's say, a heart, for example. And of course, you could search heart in an icon library. However, you can also use a fun Easter egg in Adobe XD. Go ahead and grab the polygon tool over to the left and draw one out like this. I'm gonna hold down my shift key to constrain it. And then within the properties inspector, see where it says 3 for the number of sides? I'm going to type out the greater than, I believe this is greater than, and then the number 3, or maybe that's less than, I don't know. Maybe it's less than 3, and then press return. And now we have a heart. Look at that. Isn't that fancy? And I can sample the border right over there. Let's go for 1.5 so it matches nicely. And now we have this fancy heart. Beautiful. Next, we might want, let's say, a bookmark. And we're going to zip through this pretty quickly. There's a bookmark icon. I don't know. There's a few of them. But let's say this one right over here from material design. Shrink this down a touch. Sample the color. Now this one is fill based, so the weight may, probably if you're going to be sticking with border based, all of them should be border based. That way you can make sure that they're all consistent. But this one looks pretty consistent, so I'll stick with that. And then we might want a share. So we'll go for this one, which is feather. This one is border based, which is perfect. And I'll drop this to 1.5. Beautiful. All right. So we're going to go ahead and make sure all of these are lined up. So I'm going to put this one over here to the left. Maybe that's too far to the left. Do you think it's too far to the left? It might be. So I'll pop this right about here. That's the right, actually. Over to the right. I'm going to grab this one, and I'm holding down my shift key to select all of these. And then at the top, you can go ahead and press this button here, which is going to distribute all these icons horizontally. Perfect. Let's take a look at how this is looking. All right. Not bad, not perfect, but not bad. Now, the final thing we might want to add is a line to separate the various posts. And this is going to be very simple. Grab the line from your tools panel, tools bar, draw one out, and maybe drop the opacity so it's not too strong. Perfect. Looking fancy, right? So we have all the elements that are going to make up this post, at least the text-based post. We're going to get into photo posts in just a second. What we want to do now is select all these elements. I'm going to just drag a selection over top of all of them, and you can see they're all selected inside of my layers panel. And then right at the top, we've got our repeat grid button. We're going to go ahead and press that, and boop, there we go. And we'll drag out, let's say, 2 going down the artboard. Now I'm dragging 2 out because I may want to mix things up a little bit. I may also want to introduce photo posts. And to do that, we're going to make things pretty simple. Let's call this text posts. Text posts, right? And maybe for the photo post, we'll drag this in. You know what? We probably don't need a repeat grid at the moment because there might just be one photo post. So I will grab all of these elements here. I'm going to copy them within the repeat grid. Then outside of the repeat grid, I'm going to paste them and just move them down, just like that. And now what I'm able to do is I can go ahead and grab, let's say, these icons here. And just to make my life easier, I might want to group all these icons. I'll move all of this downwards, right? And then right about here, I may just want to drag out what would be a photo. I can round out the corners a little bit. And because we're not adding real content in here today, at least I don't think so. We'll see how much time we have left, but I doubt we'll have time. And I'll just pop that right about there. And I'll just make sure everything lines up quite nicely, right? There we go. I'm also going to make a few tweaks to this just to move this over a touch. And because that's in a repeat grid, it updates all of them. Great. And then of course you can grab this repeat grid, move it down here, and extend it so you have a few additional posts. And you want to make sure that your navigation bar is at the very top of your layer stack, just like this. So it doesn't cover, or the text posts don't cover that navigation bar. Now there's a few things that we might want to change, right? Let me actually just move this up a touch. Whoops. I'm going to make sure to group all the photo posts. Group and photo post. So there's a few things we might want to do. One, we might want to make sure that we're able to scroll on this page, right? So if we were to simply launch the preview and try to scroll, nothing's going to happen because we haven't told Adobe XD that that's what we want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the entire artboard, just like this, just by clicking on the name at the top, and you're going to drag the handle at the bottom downwards until you can see all of the posts. Now, you actually want to drag it a little bit further down because we do have this navigation bar that we're going to fix into place, so we need some extra room for that. But maybe let's add one more post just so we have a nice long feed, just like that, right? And again, you want to drag this handle down. You can also access the artboard by double clicking on an empty area. So I'm going to add a little bit extra room down here. So now if we go ahead and launch the preview, we'll be able to scroll, but watch what happens to a lot of the information. Those elements like the navigation bar and the header also scroll up with it. We don't want that. So here's what we're going to do. We want to also make sure that the header is grouped. Command and Control G. I'm going to call this header. I'm going to make sure that this is also at the top of the layer stack along with the navigation bar. Now, for both of these elements, you can actually go ahead and select both of them at the same time in your layers panel. You want to head over to the right within your properties inspector and turn on fixed position when scrolling. That'll essentially lock it to your artboard. So now when you go ahead and press the play button, you can scroll up or you can scroll down. Now it's looking at, I need a little bit more room at the bottom, but you see what's going on, right? There we go. That looks much better. So we've got this social feed going down the artboard of all these. Of course, we probably want to replace John Doe, and we can always jump in here and, put an M, for example. Oh, looks like this is probably not centered, so I'll go to any one of these, center it, put an M, and I'll just put another name in here, and you can just do that for all of your posts as well. You can add real information, you can add lorem ipsum if you wanted to, a lot of different things. Now, so we've got this looking pretty good. We've got our social feed, we've got the header at the top, we've got scrolling enabled, right? But we may want a very quick shortcut to get back to the top of our feed. If you use almost any social media application on a mobile device, especially iPhones, if you're scrolling down and down and down and down, you have this long feed. If you tap on the current page, so in this case, it would be home. If you tap on that, it'll go automatically back to the top. And that's where anchor links come into play. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to hop into prototype mode, just like this. And because we're on the home screen, nothing is currently linked from it. So what we're able to do is we're able to select this group here that we have all the information of our home button. And we can actually, instead of just clicking to create a state-to-state interaction, or instead of just dragging to another artboard, we can actually drag to an element that's on this existing artboard, just like this. So you're noticing it's highlighting in blue as I'm dragging over top of it. So I can leave it on the navigation bar at the top, right? And now, within the Properties Inspector, it's automatically going to default to scroll to, because it recognized that you drag that handle to an element on the same artboard. And this is great if you're working on very long landing pages for websites that have multiple sections that are linked from navigation bar at the top, right? So we've got that set. It's automatically set to the destination that we dragged on top of. A Y offset is good. You can also adjust the Y offset by moving this down here if you want to control exactly where it lands, but I do want it to snap to the very top. So I'm not going to adjust the Y offset. And then we can choose easing options. So maybe we'll go for, let's say, a snap. You know, on many mobile devices, when you scroll back to the top, it does this little whoom, where it kind of snaps into place very nicely. So we'll do snap, and maybe we'll do 0.6 seconds. We can always adjust it later, right? So let's see how things are looking. We're going to press the play button at the top. We're going to scroll down. And now if we want to get back to the top, we simply tap on the home icon, and it scrolls, right? You can do this again. And it has that little cute snap at the top. Fancy. Now, someone yesterday asked about audio playback. And can we add audio playback to the icons as you tap on them? And the answer is, oh yeah. So here's what we're going to do. Still within prototype mode, we have our interaction here leading up to the navigation bar at the top. Now, you don't have to add a completely new one. You just go to the bottom of your Properties Inspector with that specific interaction selected. You're going to press this plus button beside Action. This will allow you to add audio playback or speech playback. So for whatever reason you wanted Adobe XD to actually speak back to you when you tap on something, you can do that. But in this case, we do want audio playback, and we can go ahead and choose a file. I actually have one loaded, but we can go ahead and add a new file. I have this file here that I loaded in. I can go ahead and press import. It's going to add it. Again, I had it in there before, but go ahead and choose a new file if you want to. And now once that's in there, hopefully the audio works on this, but let's go ahead and scroll this. And then listen. Oh, did you hear that? I hope you heard that. I do have the system audio going through this stream. So hopefully you can hear that. And now you have audio on your scrolling or on your interaction, right? And you can do the same thing for all of these. So if you wanted this, you can always add an audio action. Of course, we haven't explored how to transition to another artboard just yet, but there we go, right? Fancy. All right, so how are things looking? Let's kind of go through this again. We have our initial screen right over here. And just before we wrap things up, one thing you could do if you wanted to add some images, we'll talk more about images and dragging things in. Can we download this file to, so if you go to Behance, let me actually see if I can do it now while we have a few seconds. And let's go ahead and search for Sam Anderson. I think it's Anderson. It might be. Who knows? He's a designer on the Adobe XD team, and he put together a fantastic UI kit. There he is, Anderson, Sam Anderson. Search Sam Anderson. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to put this in the chat right now. Go over here, and Sam put together this amazing sound design kit that you can download. Hold on, I got to approve my own comment. That's crazy. You can download this sound design UI kit, which includes a bunch of sounds. I believe the sound that I'm using is included in it. I believe. But if not, there's a lot of different places you can go to grab sounds. But yeah, download this kit. You can use these sounds for this challenge if you want to. It's a good time. Audio playback is a fantastic feature. I have a bunch of examples on Dribbble, also on Twitter as well. So that's going to just wrap it up. So we've got our signing experience looking pretty good. We have our navigation bar. And of course, now we have our scrolling feed with anchor links. Fancy stuff. All right. That is going to wrap it up for me for today. I will be back tomorrow with day number 4. We're going to have a lot of fun. Stick around in just a few minutes. We've got Kyle Webster coming up with a draw along, and then Voodoo Val and Brandon Gross are coming up with a design off. So a lot of cool content coming, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.